Hello, everyone. It's Jon Brenneman, president here at MOAA Vacations. Want to thank everyone for joining us today for our pre-cruise webinar for the Atlas Western Europe cruise, sailing October 1st through the 10th of 2026. I don't actually see myself on screen, which isn't a big deal, but I think I'm on screen. There I am. Yeah, okay. Just wanted to make sure. All righty. Before we get started, I wanted to ask everybody a favor. Um, we I've done about a dozen of these, if not more. And I'm going to ask everybody to save your questions to the end. I did one of these in a couple months ago, and people were asking questions throughout the presentation, which I can't address till the end of the presentation anyway. And then when we got to the end of the presentation, the first 20 or 30 questions were all things that I answered. I have 20 slides. I've done this often enough. I think I can anticipate almost all of the questions we're going to get. So let's go through the information that I have to present. And then when I get done, then we'll have an opportunity to answer any issues that I did not address. It seems like I went one slide too far forward. So see if I can figure out how to go backwards. I don't think I can. I'll just start over again. Okay. Oops, I did it again. Okay. So the first thing is, and I think that we've kind of talked about this before, if you haven't already done so, put my cell phone into your contacts on your phone. Inevitably, if something occurs and you need to get a hold of me and you don't already have it saved in your phone, you're going to have a difficult time finding it, looking for old emails or something like that. So go ahead and save my cell phone number. I will talk real quick, since I'm talking about the cell phone, about cell service. You need to contact your carrier to see what plan you're currently on and what international calling will be. A lot of them have, 5, 10 cents a text, or they have plans. I'm with Verizon. I'm on an international plan. I think it's $10 a day. And if I access the international Wi-Fi, I get 24 hours of service. So if I log in at noon on Monday, I have service from noon on Monday to 11:59 the next day, basically noon to noon, which is $10. If I don't access it, I don't pay. It's on my phone permanently. But do make sure before you travel abroad that you know what your cell service is going to be so you're not shocked from some huge bill. But anyway, my cell number, it's one, which is a US code, so 1-816-679-3181. Put that in your phone. If you need me, I will arrive in Dublin a day early and we'll be boarding the ship early the morning of the first. So when you are arriving at the Dublin airport, if you're coming on the day of departure, I should already be on board, making sure everything is set up correctly. Once on board the ship, I will be at Paula's Pantry. I think I've kind of mentioned this before. Paula Pantries is like a coffee shop that they have. It is complimentary. They do the, you know, the lattes, the espressos, the cappuccinos. They have, scones and muffins and rolls. They have like protein yogurts. I mean, basically, it's a quick stop for kind of breakfast. If you look at that very first picture, if you can kind of see that the counter where you order, kind of to the left of that picture. To the right of it is actually the hallway you go down to access the main dining room. To the right of that is going to be the desk for the cruise director, the hotel director, and then they set me up with a table there as well. So I will be at my table, my desk, so to speak, in Paula's pantry at breakfast, lunch, and before dinner every day. So if you need me, you will probably see me walking in and walking out of breakfast and lunch, and then you'll see me there before dinner on your way in. So that is the best time to get a hold of me if you have something, just so you can kind of say, oh, I want to talk to John tomorrow about whatever it may be. I am there. Of course, you can always text me if you're off the ship or you don't find me. I'll also have no problem getting texts while I'm on the ship as well. But basically, you will see me multiple times every day because most people go to all the meals, and I am right outside of that. Uh, okay, so I'm only on the ship for one reason, and that's to make sure that your vacation is much fun as possible. So anything that occurs during the ship that you need assistance with, just come by and see me. Okay, a couple of, I guess I would say technical things to kind of go through because we always get questions on these. And the first one is the ETA, which is the electronic travel authorization. And before everybody goes in the chat and say, I misspelled authorization, that is actually how the British spell it. So if you go to the website, that's how it's spelled. So I figured for authenticity's sake, I would go ahead and spell it the British way. This is just in the UK. It does not apply to the Republic of Ireland. So if you're flying into Dublin, you don't need to worry about it. But a lot of times people hear these things being thrown around that the ETA is required in the United Kingdom. If you are, however, for some reason or other flying through, Heathrow or Gatwick, or if you're doing, like a pre and you're going to go to the UK, you do need to sign up for ETA. The website is very simple. I can email it to you if you want, but it's just dove.uk/ETA. It is £20 per person. It is valid for 2 years. But to reiterate, if you were flying into Dublin and not going to England, Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland, you do not need ETA. Okay. The next one is the EES. Uh, this is actually in effect. You can kind of read through it. There is nothing that you need to do. I can tell you if you read through what's on the screen, it says may be asked. And the reason for that is I escorted a group in June, Paris and Normandy for the Military Women's Memorial, and we told everybody that EES was in effect and that they were going to need to plan on doing that upon their arrival into Paris. And then in June, France just decided that it was too busy of travel season and everyone showed up and they were not requiring it. In July, I escorted the MOAA Signature Group to Budapest and Bucharest. When I landed in Munich, it was required. It is basically just nothing to do in advance, but when you get there, before you go through immigration, they may ask you to enroll in EES. It went very quickly. You go up, what I did in Munich is I went up to a machine, they take a picture of your face, you put one hand on a fingerprint reader, and then once you have that done, then you go through immigration. And it's designed to, you just do it one time. So once it's done once, for example, if you do it in Porto, the next time you go to Europe, you will not be required it. Once again, Dublin is not part of the EES. So when you arrive in London, you will not do this. You may be asked to do it when you are leaving Porto. No cost, no way you can do it in advance. If you get to the Porto airport, they may ask you to do it. Everything says there may be longer lines. I can tell you it went very quickly when I was in Munich. That could be just a Germany thing or just a Munich airport thing. But if people see EES and they're like, do I need to sign up for it? What is required? Basically, You get to the airport, they send you a line, you go up, it takes your picture, you put your hand on it, it takes your fingerprints, and then you go from that machine, then you get in line. So it's just one more process. It really doesn't slow things up because most people are doing that kind of when they go through the line as well. The only other thing that people mention a lot is ETAIS, ETAIS. It was originally announced that it was going to go in effect in 2022. Every year they delay it. If you were on a webinar earlier this year, I think it was the webinar we did in January, I mentioned that currently ETIS was scheduled to go in effect Q4 of 2026. However, I said then, until we have an exact date it starts, I don't believe it's going to go into an effect. And sure enough, they recently announced that ETIS has once again been delayed, and now they are thinking it's going to go into effect either third or fourth quarter 2027. I'll say the same thing I said in January. Until they actually announce the date it's going to go into effect, I don't believe it's going to go into effect. We are now looking at 5 years after it was originally going to roll out. So, to kind of recap, we have ETA, not required for Dublin, only required if you're going to a UK country other than, well, a UK country, which Ireland is not part of. If you're flying through anywhere else, not required. EES, not required in Dublin. You may be asked to enroll in the program when you get to Porto. But there's nothing you do in advance. If you get to the airport and they're having people do it, you just go through line and do it. Doesn't cost anything, nothing you can do in advance. And ETIS has been delayed till 2027 at least. So basically, at the end of all of this, unless you are going to the UK before you go to Dublin, there is nothing you need to do prior to the cruise. Okay. Pre-registration is required. Everybody should have received an email from Atlas. Most everyone has done the pre-registration process. Atlas is going to send us an updated list. We hope to have it today, actually hope to have it yesterday, of everyone who has not yet. They actually didn't say there's no one who hasn't pre-registered. They said there's a few people that they do not have their passport information. Don't worry about it. If there is a missing passport, I will personally send you an email and say, Atlas says they need this passport information. Typically, what has transpired in those in the past is in the process of registering, one of the passports was uploaded. So, for example, I would put in my passport information and then scroll through and inadvertently not include my spouse's passport information, and so they're requesting that information. But once again, if you know you haven't pre-registered yet, here's the URL. Basically, you can just go to Atlas Ocean Voyages and you can click through a couple of steps to get it. Or you can just make a note of this URL and go in and pre-register. As far as embarkation, in Dublin on October 1st, embarkation is from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So you have a couple of choices. Most people are going to have their flights come in early. The airport has shops and, restaurants and whatnot, or you can go ahead and come to the pier. You can check your bags at the pier, and there are some areas within walking distance that you can go. We are hoping to get them to open up embarkation a little earlier than 3. Basically, what it is, if you've ever been on an ocean cruise before, they're going to have the 190 people that are on the ship that are going to get off that morning. They can't actually start disembarkation until they're cleared from customs. And then they basically do the deep cleaning of all the staterooms, the public areas, and all that before they allow people to start boarding. But hopefully, when we did this last year with the Greek Isles, we actually started getting boarding a little early, but a little early would be like 2:15 or 2:30 instead of 3 p.m. there's no way people are going to be boarding much before that under any scenario that I can think of. I will be basically, when you come on board, they're going to send you into the main lounge, where they will kind of check you in and everything. It's actually a pretty laid back process where they have you go in, you sit at a table, and they come over and check you in as quickly as they can. I will have a table in there as well. It won't be at my normal Paula's Pantry since that's kind of out of the way. And that's where you'll come by and pick up your name tags, which I will have for everyone. Most everyone has now sent me the name they want on their name tag as a reminder. We will go by the name that is on your passport. That's the name that you supplied to us when you registered, unless you want to go for something else. For example, if I wanted to go by John instead of Jonathan, or if I wanted to go my middle name and want to go by Edward, or whatever that may be, um, just make sure you let us know in advance. Anyway, so I will greet everybody when you embark, and I just skipped a slide. I'm not sure there was much on that. Uh, I'm not going to go back again. Sorry. I'm on my laptop. It seems very sensitive on it. So the slide before just talked about the MOA exclusive events. We've talked about these on the webinars before, but I'm just kind of going to go through them real quickly. We do have a welcome and farewell reception. That would be the first night that we're on board and the last night we're on board. We have two theme nights. I'm going to show a video in a second, but we have a 70s disco party and a dressed in white party. We had great participation when we did the Atlas Cruise next year. In fact, that's what the video I'm going to show in just a minute is. I shot some video footage of both of the parties. As you can see, if you look right now, you can see a lot of people really got involved. They were a lot of fun. We'll have cooking demonstration, cooking classes on board. We actually do a guest cook-off as well, where we are going to seek volunteers and have them actually cook a dish with a secret ingredient, and then they'll be judged. And then I will do a future signature groups presentation. So let's see if we can't get this video to play. There you go. That was me at the beginning who said everybody say MOA. The video was actually shot in the Dome Lounge. That is kind of the dance club kind of place. They typically have like a DJ. There are times they actually have live performances there as well. They have a dance floor. But if that's kind of not your scene, then there is also a lounge, the deck below, or two decks below, I guess, on the main level, which more likely will have like somebody playing the piano or somebody playing the guitar or something like that. So kind of a more mellow kind of evening. So you do have a choice of locations. Okay, everyone asks about weather. I do this for all of them. I just do a screenshot. I did this morning. So this is kind of like the 30-day forecast. So take it with a grain of salt, but just to give people kind of an idea, we start in Dublin. So right now, the weather on Dublin on the 1st, which is the day that we embark, is going to be a high of 60, a low of 52. And then you can kind of see the weather on the other days, but keep in mind that we leave Dublin and we sail south. So if you look at the weather in Porto and we disembark in Porto on the 10th, it is 70 high, low 54. And so we're kind of going to transition to that. There are a couple of days where there may be some rain. So we are going to, did I double click again? Okay, this time I'm gonna have to stop and go back. Sorry, everyone. Okay, because everyone wants to know about the dress code. So before we get to what you pack, the dress code. So it is country club casual. I know this has come up in some previous webinars. Literally, the big thing they have is they ask people not to wear shorts at dinner. That might be And that would probably be the men, because I know women have more dressier shorts or whatever. But once again, we have the entire ship. If you were adamant that you want to wear shorts to dinner one evening, you're going to be allowed in. You're going to be seated for dinner. It's not that big of a deal, but this is kind of the posted dress code that Atlas has. During the day, wear whatever you're comfortable with. Obviously, if we're at sea, you're going to be doing activities on board. If we're in port, you're going to be off the ship. So, jackets and sweaters are optional. There are no formal nights. I might wear a sports coat a night or two, but literally, I would wear whatever you're comfortable in. And then once again, I think I mentioned this, I know I mentioned this before, but please participate in the theme nights if you want to. It's a lot of fun. I think you saw in that video, it started out at the 70s party. You can see everybody kind of dressed up for that. And then obviously the easier one to dress up for is the dressed in white party. That's just people just wearing white for the evening. Um, the exact dates of both those are going to be arranged once we're on board. I'll arrange those with the cruise director. Most likely they will be at days at sea because it's a lot for people to be out all day long and come back and dress. But those will be announced while we're on board. Okay, what to pack? This is pretty much a rule of thumb for all cruises, just so you know. But kind of what we do with what to pack is always bring a lightweight waterproof jacket. If you remember back to the weather, when we looked at Dublin, there was a couple of days where it looked like there might be some sprinkles. It's never going to be that cold, but you might want to bring a sweater or a hoodie or something like that. Shoes are very important. Almost all of the excursions, if you looked at them, involve a lot of walking, or if you decide not to do an excursion and just get off the ship and on your own, once again, comfortable shoes are a must. I think we've been hearing this our entire lives. I remember being a kid, and my parents always told the thing of bring, layers, layers, layers is always the best route to go, particularly when you're off the ship for excursions because it may start out cool in the morning and then warm up. So if you have some layers on, you can take something off, and then in the afternoon, if it cools some, you can put something on. Um, and of course, what to pack would be for the parties. Okay, laundry service. Everyone asks about this. Once again, this has come up in webinars, but I wanted to touch everything in one thing. There is no self-service laundry. They do wash and fold service. I'm going to get through in a minute on what the amenities are on the various categories of suites because it's an all suite ship, but they have three different, I guess, levels of suites for lack of a better word. So if you're in the top level, the reserve collection suites, they do provide complimentary wash and fold service. There is no dry cleaning available, but they do, and I checked, they still do this is once during the cruise, typically about mid-cruise, they're going to put something in the program that they're doing a full bag laundry special. I've joked before, it's as much as you can cram into a laundry bag. It's the bags that are in the room. So if you've ever been in a hotel before, it's about those size, but you can get a good amount of stuff in there. When we did this last year, I looked it up. It was $39.99. So you can put in all of those as much as you can fit in there one time only during the cruise. They'll do that whole bag of laundry. Otherwise, the laundry service is the typical laundry service that you're used to in hotels or on other cruise ships where it is going to be, and I'm just making these numbers up, but it's like $4 for a t-shirt and $6 for a pair of slacks and like different price depending on what it is that can add up pretty quickly. So a 9 night cruise is not necessarily long, but obviously if you know halfway through the cruise you can have all your socks and all your underwear and all your t-shirts washed, for $40. It helps in people packing maybe not as much stuff. I do not know why I keep having this issue. I apologize. Try to be much careful when I click. Okay. Some onboard information for everybody to know when you get on board. Beverages, it is unlimited beverages. In fact, one of the things that they kind of tout when they do this is they do have 24-hour bar service. So the main bar is always open. We'll get to room service in a second, but they also deliver drinks via room service. Um, the beverages, just all your beverages are included. We talk specialty coffees; those are available at breakfast. They're available at Paula's Pantry. One of the things that we always talk about, and I'm sure it's on a later slide, is kind of in my tips kind of thing. They'll have set wines for dinner for the evening. But if you try the red and you don't like it, have the small K come over. It's not like that's the only wine you get. People have asked about the outlets. There are both 110 and 220 outlets in all of the rooms. They also have the USB ports. Uh, so the next thing is you may want to bring an adapter from type A to type C. If you have a newer cell phone that is type C, the plugs in the room are type A, so you can't do C to C. If you don't know what that means, then it probably doesn't matter. But the new cell phones, particularly the Apples, are type C instead of type A. I always recommend, particularly if you have a lot of things, if I have both a phone and a laptop and my cabin mate has the same and hair dryers and curling iron and stuff like that. You might bring like one of those plugs that you can plug in that is like an extension plug that gives you multiple plug-ins or whatever, so you're not constantly having to unplug one item to plug in another. But there are 110 and 220 plugs. You can also bring a adapter for the 220 so you can use all the plugs in the room. So Wi-Fi is available throughout the ship, including your suites and then all the public areas. As a reminder for the signature groups, you will receive per person one unlimited premium Wi-Fi. So what it means with just each person has one account. So if I have both my laptop and my cell phone, I can be using my cell phone on Wi-Fi, but I have to log out or log into my laptop, which will log out my phone if I want to work on my laptop. So I cannot be using two devices at the same time. Now, if I'm sharing a stateroom with somebody and they're at the spa or they're off the ship or who knows what they're doing, they're at the cooking demonstration, if they give you the login information, theoretically I could be logged on my spouse's Wi-Fi account on the laptop and on my account on the cell phone, but it really doesn't seem to be an issue. You can purchase additional logins. But I really don't find it. You're on vacation. You should be able to get by with just one device at a time. I will be working every single day, and I had no issue when I was on the Greek Isles cruise doing both. In fact, the easier part is when I was in port of call, I had that international Wi-Fi, so I could be on my cell phone on my Wi-Fi, and then use, on my cell phone on my cellular data through Verizon, and then I could be on the Wi-Fi on my laptop. Gratuities are included. Um, Without fail, someone is going to ask, they're going to have somebody that they think did a phenomenal job, be it their butler or their cabin steward or the bartender who always remembered your drinks or a waiter or a waitress. If you want to, you can always tip them additional money. In that case, it is best just to hand it to them directly. They do have envelopes at the front desk if you want to put the money in an envelope before you hand it to them, but it would be directly between you and that person. And that's only if you want to do it if somebody went, heads and tails above. If it, you basically were like, this is the greatest bartender I ever had, and you want to do it, then just give them whatever you're comfortable, keeping in mind that all the staff have already been tipped. The gratuities were included in your purchase price. So you basically have already given everyone gratuities. I hope I haven't belabored that point. When you're on excursions, a lot of time they recommend tipping for the guides or the bus drivers. Once again, it's optional, it's not required, but people kind of always ask. And the standard guideline in the cruise industry is $3 to $5 for guides, $2 to $3 for bus drivers. Of course, that may vary depending on the length of time that the excursion is. If it's an all-day excursion, you may want to do more. If it's a shorter excursion, you may want to do less. And once again, it is optional, so there is no requirement that you need to do any additional tipping. I am telling you, I don't know what in the world my issue is here. Okay, few more onboard informations as we go through this. Room service is complimentary. It is available 24 hours. They have always available menu in the accommodations. It does include spirits, wine, and beer. I think you can order from the dinner menu, the main dinner menu during dinner time. For those in the reserve collection suites, there is an expanded menu, but if it's the middle of the night, you need something to eat, or you need another drink, and you don't feel like going to the bar that's open 24 hours, you can order it through room service. People ask about bringing alcohol on board. You can. There is no portage fee. You can drink it in your stateroom or you can bring it to dinner. Pretty straightforward. The fitness center is available 24 hours. There's no one in there. It's self-use. They always want us to say use of the equipment is at your own risk. But I think this came up before, but when I did the Greek Isles, the ships are the same. I was on the Navigators as a Voyager. They're sister ships. I always say the layout is exactly the same, different color carpets. The only way you could tell them apart. We never had a line at the fitness center because my desk is going to be right by the entrance to the fitness center. But there's always, I guess, that possibility if they only have, whatever, a few which treadmills that you might go in and the treadmill may be available, but it's first come, first serve. And then smoking. We rarely have a lot of people that smoke anymore. But if you do smoke, there are designated areas. There's a designated area on the ship where it's the only place smoking is allowed. You cannot smoke in your suite or in your balconies. That's pretty straightforward for all cruises now. Okay. Suite amenities, everyone should have this. We did an email a while back, but I just wanted to include it. You can kind of go through, so it's the top to the bottom. The screen lists what the various suites are. So the reserve collection would be the Navigator, Discovery, and Journey suites. They include everything below that, right? So it includes the reserve amenities plus the concierge and signature amenities. Then you can look at the concierge amenities, and then below that are the signature collection amenities, which is what everyone receives. Um, I can include this when I send out the email if you want, but I mean, at this juncture, I'm not sure really how much it matters. One click, and I double clicked. Must be nervous. Just kidding, of course. Okay, a number of tips I put together just kind of from my experience. I've been on Atlas a couple of times, so I wanted to share these. The first is the Wi-Fi is included, but when we are at sea, and there's a couple of days, for example, when we're going from like Ireland over to the West Coast, it may be a little bit slower during open sea. Not really a lot you can do about that, but just so you know, if it's night and we're, way off the coast, and Wi-Fi is going a little bit slower, just be prepared. Atlas will provide a daily program every day. When you get back from dinner, it will be on your bed. It includes actual weather forecast for the next day, port information. So if you're getting off the ship, kind of, what's around the port. If there's special events or something going on that evening, for example, that would be the program that would say, tonight is the white party or the 70s disco party. Um, I really think the people that attend the MOA events have a lot of fun. Obviously, your vacation's the number one priority. All of the MOA events are scheduled so they do not conflict with any other activities that are going on board. So we certainly hope you will join. For those been on a signature group, MOA does Flickr pages. If you're not familiar with Flickr, it is a photo sharing website. So, for example, at one point during the cruise, once again, I will talk about it like in the cocktail lounge at the cocktail party before dinner. But we will do a group photo. I think everyone, or hopefully everyone, has seen the photo that we took last year with a group our size. We basically go to the bow of the ship. I go up a few decks and take the group picture. I'll be taking pictures throughout the cruise, and so I will upload those to the Flickr page for this cruise. And then you are all invited to upload any photos that you want to as well. And then anyone can download any of the uploaded photos. So it's kind of a photo sharing. It ends up becoming kind of like a photo album of the cruise. It's actually hosted on MOA's website. Um, and we have one for every signature group. I'm sure I'll mention this on board as well. But kind of think when you're running around, on the ship and off the ship, or, on the group excursions, if you take pictures of your other members and their guests, and they take pictures of you, you end up with a photo sharing site where there are pictures of you that other people took that you may want to download. And of course, as I mentioned, we have the group photo for everyone. Okay, next page of tips, I guess I would say. Breakfast is buffet, but they don't really advertise it. But I always let people know you can request a menu. In fact, hopefully they'll be putting those out on the tables. So I'm a big kind of, over easy egg kind of person instead of scrambled eggs. But they do have a menu you can order off at breakfast every day. Always tell people to bring sunscreen even if it's a little bit cloudy, if you're going to be out and about in the sun for an extended period of time. And then once again, layers. Um, and this is kind of where I mentioned above, I was going to mention it again, and that's that the wine and cocktails are truly inclusive. And this is, if you just kind of read it, it's like there are no additional costs. And it's this thing again is, if you're at dinner in particular and they have the wines that they come by and they say, would you like a white or a red? If there's one you had the night before that you preferred, or, they're serving, who knows, you want a different kind of wine. Sorry, I'm not a big wine drinker, but you're in the mood for a Cabernet Sauvignon, and that night may be it. Just ask for the sommelier to come over, and they will find the wine that you want. Shore excursions, they will do shore excursion talks on board the ship. So if you're unsure of what you want, you can wait to the shore excursion talk. I know this says book early, they fill up early. It is not the easiest process to actually have to call them to book the excursions. They are working on, hopefully at some point have them automated. But we were hoping after last year when everyone had to call in, they'd be automated by this year. If you have any issues, just let us know. But the process would be is you look up the excursions you want, you call in and basically order them over the phone. But you can also book them on board. Did I not start this again? Sorry. And then the last would be, I don't know if I was actually on the last slide. Did I talk about it without being on it? Oh, okay. Spa treatments. There is a spa on board. Um, you cannot pre-book it. So as soon as you're on board, you can book spa treatments. Always just want to let people to know prime times. which are going to be the days where times when you're not in port. Most people get off the ship when it's on port. So, in particular, the days at sea, if you want a massage and you want to do it one of the days at sea, it is best to book that early because everybody in the group is going to be like, I'm going to be off, in Waterford, and I'm going to be off in Bordeaux, and I'm going to be off here. But the day at sea is when I'm going to want to get that spa treatment. So, when you get on board, as soon as you get settled, you may want to go to the spa, get the price list, and then once you decide what you want to do, go ahead and board that. And then the other thing is up on the pool deck at night, the seven aft grill becomes a steakhouse. Reservations are required. You are only allowed to go once during the duration of the cruise, which gives everybody the opportunity to go once. But once again, it is sort of like, what day do you want to go? Typically, people go, oh, I'm going to go the night we're at sea because we're not going to be tired from running around all day or whatever that is. So you go to the front desk where registration is, and you go up and you say, we would like to go to Jasper's Grill on Wednesday night, and they will get you reserved until that is full, and then eventually all of those opportunities will be filled. I've been. Um, it's good. I mean, it's a different menu. It is basically steak, but it's pretty darn good. It's something you should consider. And when we're talking about this, I know a lot of you are going with groups, or not groups, but you're bringing, friends or family along. Make sure if there's like four or six of you or more that want to go at the same time, you're going to have a little bit less flexibility the later into the cruise you wait to actually make your reservation there at the Seven Aft Grill. Okay, that is pretty much everything I have. I'm going to talk for just a minute about the folks that are on the back-to-back that are boarding in September 21st and sailing to Reykjavik to Dublin, and then continuing on from Dublin to Porto. So, if I went through and you have any questions about anything I talked about, now would be the time to go in and enter that question. The way you would enter questions, if you go to the bottom of the screen, if you might have put your cursor there, you'll see some icons. You're looking for one that looks like a little conversation bubble that's got a question mark in it that says Q&A. If you're on a tablet or your iPhone, you can take your finger down there to get the menu. If you don't see that Q&A icon, you're looking for a circle with three dots in it that says more. If you click on that, that will show you all the icons and you can go in there, ask your question. As soon as I get done talking about the back-to-back folks, I'm going to go through and answer everyone's questions. So go ahead and start entering there. Okay, so we have 23 people that are going to be on the Reykjavik to Dublin cruise. You're boarding on September 21st. We have worked out with Atlas that we're going to do a cocktail party for that group so you can meet everyone in the group. It is scheduled for the evening of September 22nd, your second night on board before dinner. When we get on board, the cruise director will actually kind of finalize plans for the date and time. I can do it from here, but Atlas said it would be easier if one of those 23 people will volunteer to kind of be the designated group host. And there's really only two things that are involved with that. The first thing would be to meet with the cruise director and set a time and place. It is before dinner on the 22nd. So, and there's only so many venues, so it's not like there's going to be a lot of choices anyway. From my experience, the cruise director is really just going to tell you where and when it is. So I'm not really sure why they want someone to be the designated group host, but they have asked. So if somebody wanted to volunteer, that would be great. The bigger thing would be is we'd like to get everyone their name tag. As I mentioned, we're going to have name tags for everybody who are on the signature group. We'd like to get everyone their name tag so you could wear them on the Reykjavik to Dublin cruise, and that way you could easily identify your fellow MOAA members if you wanted to have dinner together, you wanted to sit next to each other on excursions, et cetera, et cetera. And what we'd like to do is mail this designated group host the name tags for the 23 people and then have them bring those name tags to that cocktail kind of meet your fellow MOA members party on the 22nd. So if anyone would like to volunteer, please do so. Otherwise, I will probably send an email out to everyone in that group. In fact, I will do that regardless to everyone in that group. At least you can kind of meet everyone, kind of online for lack of a better word. But I think it would be a much more enjoyable cruise if that 23 folks could all be together or at least, be able to identify each other during that cruise. Okay. So, a bunch of questions. So we will go through these from the very beginning. How many MOA guests will be on the journey early in Iceland? 23. How many guests? I thought I just, oh, that, sorry, reading it again. How will we meet and know the folks meeting us at the airport that will transport us to the boat? If you have a group or a private transfer through Atlas, they will meet you when you come out of immigration at baggage claim, but more exact details on that will come from Atlas. You can't hear me. Okay. I don't know what to do about that now. Your slide didn't advance. Okay. Slide didn't change. Do the bathrooms have an electrical output for personal hair dryers? I do not think so. Most cruise ships do not put electrical outlets in the bathrooms the way more and more hotels are not putting electric outlets in bathrooms for safety reasons. There are electrical outlets, in the cabin proper. Uh, so that's live. Sorry. Okay. Well, I couldn't see the Q and A's while I was doing it, so. Yeah, most of the questions are, can't see the slide. Thanks. The excursion is slide 17. Sure. Didn't think slide 17 had excursion info. There's slide 18. Mm, sure. Okay, there's slide 18. Uh, as far as the money exchange, so the question is, will there be a money exchange on board to get more euros if needed? Within reason, typically they can make change. It's typically a one-way process. So if you have US dollars and you want to buy euros, they'll do it, kind of bills kind of thing. They'll exchange them on board. They don't typically exchange back at the end of the cruise if you have euros that you want to change back to US dollars. Um, Honestly, what we always recommend people to do, it seems the best exchange rate you're going to get is go to an ATM, which are going to be everywhere. You really don't need a lot of euros. Most people accept credit cards, but yeah, within reason. I don't want to. I don't want to say they're going to do an exchange and then have somebody come on board and it's going to want hundreds of dollars of euros, but within reason. What time does breakfast start every day? Linda, they don't have a set time like every day. The program will show what time the breakfast is. I would say as a rule of thumb, 7:30, 9:30, something kind of that range. Paula's Pantry will open up. That's the place that has coffee and they actually have like breakfast sandwiches too, but I mentioned, scones and donuts and rolls and yogurt and kind of little protein kind of things. I think that opens up at 6 a.m. So it opens earlier and there's 24-hour room service. But that kind of time it opens will adjust a little bit based upon the time the ship is getting into port. The earlier the ship gets in port, the earlier they'll open up for breakfast because, if they're docking at 8 and excursions start at 8:30, they may start breakfast at 7 or even sooner. So the kind of breakfast time kind of varies depending on the day, but you can always go to Paula's Pantry, get a banana or an apple. I mean, they have a pretty decent variety there. I've eaten breakfast there many a day when I was on the cruises in the past, and then once again, they have 24-hour room service. Is there a shuttle service in ports from ship to city center and return? Typically, no. Um, let me change that. Atlas does not provide a shuttle from the ship to city center. If the ship docks. A lot of times, in some ports, some of the smaller ports, the ship doesn't actually dock. They will tender you. Tender means that you'll get on one of the lifeboats and they will take you and they actually drop you at city center on the tender, which is very convenient because you basically get on and off the ship right at city center. If they do dock, the port may offer well, the port will have some kind of transportation. If you've ever been on a Caribbean cruise, it's like you get off whatever ship you're on, Princess Royal, whatever it is. And then they will have shuttles into town that are a few dollars, $10 a person or something like that. But Atlas does not have specific Atlas shuttle service. What time of the day is the Can Co show? I'm wondering if we can participate in the Can and still sign up for the tour that day. I, I, Ken, you're gonna have to send me an email. I do not know what the Can show is, so let me know. Unless you're talking about, oh, the cultural immersion excursion, will be in the evening one evening, so it will not conflict with tours during the day. Melody says, special dietary request, celiac. When you completed the pre-registration, as you went through the various pages, there's one of them that specifically addresses diet. There's also one that specifically addresses, medical needs, such as I have a CPAP machine, so I'm going to need distilled water. So I'm assuming that when you did the pre-registration, you put down that you had the special dietary request. I always tell people when you get on board, that first meal you go to, which would be dinner that first night. If you want me to go with you, I will, but get with the head waiter or the maitre d' and let them know as well. I just always want, I want to be err on the side of caution, I guess is what I would say. So rather than, saying, a month, 2 months before I got on the cruise, I filled out a form online and it went to the offices, Atlas's offices. I think they were somewhere in Florida in the Miami area. And trust that information got over. Let's actually get with that head waiter or the maitre d', whomever we can find that first night, and make sure we let them know to make sure that there's no issues. Flying to Dublin early and taking the train to Belfast. Is DT check for overland entry? I do not know. I have not been asked that question. I don't know your name, so you will have a cruise consultant here. Uh, and so I can't have them reach out to you. So if you want to send us an email to the mail at MOAVAC, or if you want to reach out to your specific, if you want to reach out to your specific cruise consultant, they can check that information for you. They'll probably do. I don't know if we've had that asked before, so they may just go to that uk.gov/ETA website and look there to see if it's required. It's £10 per person, and it's valid for 2 years. I might err on the side of safety rather than getting there and finding out you need it if you do and not. Is there a dress code theme event such as 70s or Roaring 20s? Yeah. Sorry, I went through this before. Perhaps you came in late. We have two themed dress nights. We're having a 70s disco party and a dressed in white party. When I send the email out with the link to this was recorded. If I didn't make that clear at the beginning, we recorded this, so everyone will get an email later on this evening, probably in a couple of hours, where you can revisit the webinar. But I'll go ahead and include the video. We have a video from the Greek Isles cruise we did last year, which basically is just a real quick, not even, I think, barely a minute long video that actually shows footage from both that 70s disco party and that dressed in white party to give you an idea of how people dressed for that last year. Please address the group transfer. So the group transfer is there's two option group transfers at the conclusion of the cruise. There is a transfer to there's a transfer to the airport, and there is a group transfer to downtown Porto, which the group will be dropped off at the Tivoli Hotel. I don't know how far your hotel is from the Tivoli. You can either take an Uber, which is our recommendation, or a cab from the ship to your hotel, or you can take the group transfer to the Tivoli. If it's a block, you may want to walk, or you may want to take the group transfer and then go from there in Uber or cab from the Tivoli Hotel. Uh, Don, if you want to give either Mike or I a call, we can address that further. Originally, Atlas only had one transfer, which was from the ship to the airport. We said we think a number of people are doing a post. I think we have 8 or 10 people that are staying at the Tivoli, which is why we selected that hotel for the post. But um, probably best to give Mike a call. I know he's difficult to get hold of sometimes. So give us a call and we can address that specific to you issue. Uh, Never been on a cruise before. What additional expenses can you expect? Okay, so we're going to go through all the foods included, all the drinks are included, all of the gratuities are included. So really, on board the ship, unless you're going to go to the spa, there really isn't a lot that there's an additional expense for. Everyone does, and I didn't mention this. I probably should have mentioned it up front. As a reminder, in addition to the complimentary premium unlimited Wi-Fi that each person also receives $100 onboard credit. The onboard credit is like it's a credit to your onboard account. So when you're on the ship, it's kind of a cashless society. So if you were to go to the spa, you wouldn't actually pay at the spa. They would add that to your onboard account. So if you did a spa treatment that was $90, you would then have $100 credit and a $90 charge. So then you'd have a $10 credit. So there is the spa. There are the shore excursions, which are optional. But if you do shore excursions, once again, you pick out a shore excursion. And if the shore excursion is $149, you have a $100 credit. Then they charge $149 to your account. You have a $100 credit, so you only owe 49. There's a gift shop on board. So if you go to the gift shop and purchase something at the gift shop, it has things from, I don't know, you go there and you want to get Alka-Seltzer or you want to get a t-shirt or whatever. They have prices. You go in there, the t-shirt. I remember when I was on board, they had wireless headphones that I think were $20. because I know I got 5 sets because I had $100 onboard credit and I didn't do any other expenses than that. And actually, 5 people got wireless headphones for Christmas that year. But if I was to go in and get 1 set of wireless headphones for 20, I have $100 credit. I have 80 east. So literally, you can eat and drink and sail on the cruise and have no expenses. It's either expenses off the ship, which would be either doing excursions on your own or excursions through Atlas. And then if you purchase spa or something at the gift shop or something like that. I mean, I mentioned that everybody has the free premium Wi-Fi. Normally, that's something that's listed as an expense. So you shouldn't need any Wi-Fi. The only other thing would be laundry. I mentioned that, mid-cruise, if you want to do laundry, you put as much stuff in a bag as you can. I think it's still in that $40 price range. But once again, if you and your spouse have $100 each onboard credit, you have $200. If you do the laundry, you now have $160 credit, so it applies to the credit. So anything that most everything's included, if it's not included, you will know when you make that purchase that you're making a purchase. How many non-MOA passengers do we expect on the cruise? Edward, I don't actually know. We have uh, a lot of guests on board who may not be MOA members. We do have one MOA member because when we talk about you can bring friends and family, we don't put a limit on it. So we do have one MOA member who, if I remember correctly, has 11 other couples that is going with him. But we've found out that of those 11 other couples, some are MOA members in their own right and some are not. So I don't have a hard and fast number of that. The majority of the cabins, the overwhelming majority of the cabins, will have a MOA member and a spouse in the stateroom, or a MOA member traveling alone, or two MOA members traveling together. The exception to that would be guests of MOA members. So if I was going on a trip and I'm a MOA member and I invited along my brother and his wife, they would come. So technically they're not MOA members, if that's what you were asking. What is the best transportation from the airport to the ship? I would say in Dublin, uh, okay, Linda, we sent out an email that had the address for the port in every port that we're going to be in. So when I send the email out tonight, I will include that again. So rather than trying to give it, live, or speak out what it is and look it up, I'll include that in the email that goes out. But we have the port address for every port that you're going to be in. We recommend Uber. It's not as big of a deal in Dublin because they speak a version of English. So you should be able to understand them. We do have group transfers since everyone's getting off the ship at the same time. There are group transfers from the ship in Porto, where if you were taking, but if your choice was like, say, once again, we'll go back to the, I want to go to somewhere in Porto, other than the airport. I would recommend an Uber only because it's easier to communicate with the driver. Last year in Greek Isles, I took an Uber to the cruise ship, and he went to the wrong pier. He spoke Greek. I don't speak Greek, but I was able to show him my phone and get him to understand that he was at the wrong pier number. But a cab or an Uber, I would say would be the best bet. As I said, in Dublin, you probably don't need to worry about taking a cab because most likely they're going to speak English. Coming in today early, can you provide the address for the embarkation port? Yeah, Don, just said it, so I'm sure you just heard it, but I'll say it again. I will include the address for the port of call for every port, which would be Dublin, Waterford, Bordeaux, all the way through the entire cruise, and include the port address in Porto as well. So I will include that in the email that I will send out tonight. Currently, the bus from the port to the Porto Hotel will not be stopping at any other hotels. If you're at another hotel and you want to see if we can stop there, send me an email to either mail at Moavac or John at Moavac, and I will go to Atlas and see if it's plausible. Porto isn't a huge city, but the bus will not be able to make, stops throughout the city, but we'll see if we can't convince them if it's nearby that they can possibly make additional stops. So I will include that in the email that goes out tonight to see if that's doable. John, thank you for the offer to be the group host. I will send you a separate email. There's really not a lot to it, but I will get those luggage tags printed and sent to you. I appreciate that. That's probably the biggest part of it. And then the cruise director will have your name. I don't honestly, once again, understand the need for it since my experience has been for example, when I get on board and we say we want to do our welcome reception, they normally tell me the time and the location. But that will be awesome. I appreciate you stepping up. Thank you, sir. Will the Atlas transfer in Porto be early enough for 11:15 flight? Yes. Disembarkation starts at 9, so the transfer will be at 9, a little after 9. Um, Yeah, I wouldn't schedule a flight much earlier than 11:55. However, with disembarkation not starting till 9. In fact, Gerald, I'm going to make a note to check with them to make sure that that transfer is going to leave as close to 9 as possible. With 11:50, they typically, I mean, I'm glad you're not saying 10:55. Then I'd kind of be worried that your flight was too early. Uh, Bill, I'm going to get that information. I'll include it in the email. I Disembarkation starts at 9. I think that bus will depart 9:15, 9:30 as soon as everyone that is going to be on that transfer gets off the bus and gets on that transfer. So I would say 9:15, 9:30, but I will verify that. Brian, if you want to do the transfer, you can just send us an email, but it is the same 800 number with Atlas that you use to book shore excursions. If you look at that shore excursion booklet and you scroll all the way to the end, they'll have all the shore excursions. They'll have a sign up sheet for the shore excursions. If you keep scrolling down, they then have the information on the transfers. But I will include information on that in the email I'm sending tonight as well. Uh, if the behind the scenes tour and gallery tasting on the ship is an excursion, I'll admit I do not know all the excursions off the top of my head. You would sign up for that the same way that you sign up for all the other excursions. Uh, Debbie, I literally got an email confirmation this morning from Atlas, which gave me the embarkation and disembarkation time. Um, I have not personally received my documents, so I don't know what the documents say. If you don't mind, if you're still here, posting what time the documents say embarkation and debarkation is. If not, I'm going to send you an email and see what times those are. 'Cause I want to make sure that, but as I said, I met with, I sent a list of all the information that I was going to go through today so Atlas could verify it. And I asked them to send me the times for embarkation and disembarkation. And so this morning, 9 a.m., 10 a.m., they sent me an email and said what the embarkation and disembarkation time was. Hopefully, it's not too different than the documents. Uh, Send the slides. Uh, I'll send the email of the presentation. I will see if I can attach the PowerPoint. I'm not sure that's allowed. Yes, I will email everyone the briefing. For the 23 of us going from Iceland to Porto, what will be required of us in Dublin? Nothing. You'll already be on the ship. I don't think they're going to have you check in again. If you want to get off in Dublin, you can certainly get off in Dublin, see the city, do whatever you'd like, but you'll already have been checked in. So to my knowledge, it's a back-to-back cruise, so there's nothing further that will need to be done. Sandy, I was told Atlas that the excursion that starts at 8:30 and ends at 1 will not offer lunch. Can we get a box lunch to take off the ship with us? I do not think that Atlas does box lunches. Stop by my desk when we're on board and we can certainly see what they might be able to provide. You could certainly order room service and take it off with you. When you get back on the ship, you can go to lunch on the ship, or you can order room service when you get back. But I do not. I've been on them twice, and I've never seen them, having box lunches for people to take um, off with people when they do excursions. No. Will the yacht be pierside in Dublin or anchored out with small ship boat shuttles? It'll be anchored in Dublin. Yes, if you are disembarking the ship, well, everyone's disembarking the ship on the 10th. If you go into Porto for a night, then the only transfers that Atlas offers are on the day of embarkation, the day of disembarkation. So if you are doing a pre in Dublin, you're on your own to transfer to the ship. And if you're doing a post in Porto, then, as I mentioned, I would recommend doing an Uber, or your hotel, I'm sure, can get you a cab. But yeah, Atlas will be no assistance with that. Do the rooms have mini fridges? Hmm, that one I do not know. Give me just 1 second. Uh, Ken, I will let you know. Uh, yes, they do. Sorry, I had to remember because I was on them in August of last year, so it's been over a year. But yes, there is a mini fridge in your room. Which of our reports are tendered? Can't tell by the. I gotta get another sheet of paper. Got too many questions. Uh, I will get a list of where we tender and where we dock. I do not know how long it'll take to get that answer, so I may send out the email tonight with the presentation, and then I'll send a follow-up email. Uh, I'll send up a follow-up email when I get the answer of which are tendered and which are docked. That information will be provided when you get on board, but I'm assuming that you want it before then. Is the pool outside only? Is it heated? The pool is outside only, and it is not heated. But when when you disembark, can you rent a car? And how would I get to the rental car company? I would think your best bet would be to take the transfer to the airport and rent a car at the airport, because all the airports have rental car facilities. I do not know if there's one near the Villa di Castello. I think going to the airport would be easier than transferring downtown Porto to rent the car there. I do not know. That would be a question you'd want to ask your travel agent uh, here, or your travel consultant here at MOA Vacations. But my bet would be your best bet is going to be go to the airport and rent it from the airport. Is there an OBC for the pre-cruise? Uh, if you're asking, is there an onboard credit for the cruise from uh, Reykjavik to Dublin, yes, there's $100 per person onboard credit on both sailings. Was I able to get the unlimited premium Wi-Fi for the early sailing, John? I asked that question when you asked it last week. I did not get an immediate no. I have gone up the chain. If you've not, people have not heard me how this goes before. We have a direct contact for this group. If I get an answer I don't like, I go to the director of groups. If I don't get the answer I like, I go kind of up the ladder. And I've gone up to the ladder to Jason O'Keefe, who's in charge of the entire onboard product for the ships, and I have not heard back. We are trying to, at the very least, get one per stateroom instead of one per room. But when if you look at that group, it was advertised as having the $100 onboard credit. So we are asking them kind of at the 11th hour to add an amenity, but we're certainly trying. I will let you know. I will let everyone know as soon as we find that we get a definitive answer. Is there a credit for the pre-cruise? Yes, $100 per person. And just so you know, that $100 per person onboard credit is on every Atlas cruise. So be it the pre-cruise, be it the signature group, if you decide that you want to go on a cruise next year on your own or just with you and your friends, it is part of our exclusive MOAA amenity program that any Atlas cruise you go in, you will receive a $100 per person onboard credit. So since you get it on any Atlas cruise, you get it on both the Reykjavik to Dublin and you get it on the Dublin to Porto. The Atlas Port Excursion presentation will be on board. So when you get on board the ship, the cruise director will do kind of a shore excursion talk on board the ship, and you can book the excursions on board. Um, Other than that, they have the written descriptions of what it is that came with the in the short excursion book. We don't have anything besides that. Uh, my assumption, Don, would be that Uber would be at the port. Um, but we can certainly figure that out when we're on board. So we'll be on board 9 days. So to me, the easiest way to do that when we get on board, work with the staff on board the ship. The cruise director would be the one that would have all the contacts in every port we stop in. And if Uber is not an option, then we can certainly arrange a cab to pick you up at the pier. Okay. Thank you, Debbie. I am going to follow up with Atlas and find out why the documents do not match what they said. Obviously, 2 to 4 and 8 a.m. is better than what I was told what I was told with 3 to 5 and 9 a.m. So hopefully the documents are right. As soon as I get an answer, I'll let everybody know. To register Atlas, I request a loyalty ID. Linda, you're going to need to ask your agent. I don't have access to that. What the loyalty ID is. Sorry, I don't have individual information for people. There should be a mini fridge in every suite. Uh, Atlas does not mail documents, they email them. If you have not received your documents yet, uh, I drop us an email and let us know. Have you done the pre-registration? They do not send documents until you're pre-registered. That's where you go in and you enter your passport information, your medical needs, your dietary needs, your emergency contact. I'm doing this from memory, but I think those are the four things that they ask for on that. So when you go pre-register, you'll need to know who your emergency contact is. They're going to ask for phone and email. You're going to need to have your passport. Uh, I think they do a screenshot and have you enter the information. And then they're going to go through and just say, do you have any dietary situations? Do you have any medical conditions kind of thing? Once you've done the pre-registration, they should email you out your documents. Um, for period, does your spouse need their own login? That's a great question. I do not know. I'm traveling as a single. So when I did mine, I only registered for myself. I would say if you go through pre-registration and there's no way to add your spouse, then you would need to be a separate one. But I can ask that, but I do not know how quickly I will get an answer from Atlas. But it seems like there's a number of things that I'm checking on. So as soon as we're done, I need to download this from Zoom, upload it to YouTube. I'll send out an email and I'll send up a follow-up email as soon as I have an answer to all these questions. Previous experience was excursions. Would you book them as soon as possible? I would say this. This is kind of what I've said in the past on all the signature groups was excursions. If there is an excursion that one or two excursions that you absolutely want to go on that, and somebody mentioned the Waterford Crystal. If you basically decided that if you were to wait and you couldn't get that excursion, that that would be just like the worst thing possible that could happen on this cruise, then absolutely you should pre-book it. Anything that is that important, you should pre-book. If, for example, you're looking at other excursions and you're like, well, we do this one or that one, I kind of like to learn more. Then you can certainly, wait till you get on board. Typically, the majority of people book on board instead of booking in advance. So there is that opportunity. Of course, you might want to sign up as soon as you get on board, but if you know you're going to do it for sure, there really is no disadvantage to booking in advance. Literally, the advantage of booking on board would be to have the cruise director do a presentation on what the excursion is and then decide, ask them additional questions if needed, and then decide. So if you're undecided, I would lean towards booking when you get on board. If you know for sure you want to do an excursion, there's really no disadvantage in booking them in advance, other than you have to call to do it. Okay. I will see you on board as well, and thank you. So I guess that was the last question on the excursions. If any questions come up, just send us an email. Your cruise consultant should be able to answer most of this. It's 3:20 now, so it's an hour and a half webinar, and we started early, so it will take a while to download. I think I started the webinar an hour early, and then I have to upload it. So maybe 7 o'clock tonight. Be on the lookout for it. And then if I have to write up all these questions and send them to Atlas. So if I do not have the answers to all the questions that we received today that I didn't know the answer to, you'll receive the video tonight and a follow-up tomorrow with the answer to all the questions. I appreciate everybody for joining me today. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I just want to reiterate one more thing. I am on board every day. You will see me every morning to and from breakfast, to and from lunch, and before dinner. If any problems arise, anything you need help with or anything like that, that's why I am there. That for that reason solely. So once you get on board the ship, I'm there to take care of everything. So it's supposed to be it's vacation. It's supposed to be stress free. I am there to make it stress free. So I look forward to seeing everybody on board. Look for an email later on tonight, and I will see everyone on board when you walk on board the ship in Dublin. Have a great day, everybody.